Gina. Today I'm going to show you how to make this really cute, pretty darn simple necklace, and we're going to be using the Golden Harvest treasure bag. However, this is a techniques video. Will work with anything you have in your stash. You can make this with or without a pendant even. You can put some bigger focal beads on it. It is basically a design that will work with most anything. So just watch to draw inspiration or follow along, whatever you would like. Do not feel left out because you don't have the treasure bag. This is, like I said, pretty simply accomplished. So let's go ahead and look and see what it takes to make this particular project. Okay, for this project today, we will be using some things found in the Golden Harvest treasure bag. However, this is a techniques video, and these beads are fairly common size, and you can use anything you'd like. You'll also have to find a little pendant, or you can do this without a pendant too. Just use your imagination and make something pretty. So what we're going to use from the treasure bag are the 5x5 golden cubes, and you can use a 6mm cube too also. And then we're going to use the 6mm round faceted orange crystals, and we will be using about 30 of these, and we'll be using about 12 of these. Then I'm going to add to the treasure bag some bead caps. And you don't have to have bead caps for this. It actually looks just as good without them, so you can do this whether you have them or not. Then we're going to use from the treasure bag the Toggle Clasp, one of the Toggle Clasps that came in the bag. Then we're going to add to the treasure bag 6 8/0 seed beads, and this is the nickel toho. Then we will be using about 20 little 6mm round jump rings, and then we're going to cut 10 pieces 2 inches long of 20 gauge wire. I'm using this craft wire here. You can see it's 20 gauge, and it's by Beadsmith. You can use any 20 gauge wire you want as long as it's not tremendously soft like aluminum, because it will not hold your loops otherwise. Then we are also going to cut a piece about 5 inches long for the focal. And that's what we're going to be using. So let's go ahead and get started with this project. Okay, we're going to make the focal piece of this necklace first, and then we'll make the components to make the top of the necklace. So you've got your 5-inch piece of wire here, and I'm using some nylon nose pliers. I am just going to gently curve this. I don't want to curve it drastically. I'm just going to gently curve it with my nylon nose pliers, just a little bit. Try to get the curve pretty much the same on both sides so you don't have a funny curve. That's good enough for now. I might curve it just a little more, but I don't want it to have an obvious center point at this point. I just want a slight curve in it, so that I can adjust as I make my loops and make sure that my pendant is in the center. So just a very slight curve. Then I'm going to pick up my flat nose pliers, and I'm going to hold the curve down towards the bead mat, and about I'd say ½ an inch down, I am going to place my plier and then turn the wire straight up. So my curve is down and my angle is up, just like this. Then I am going to place this over my finger, and this might be a little long. I can trim it slightly. I want to make a fairly decent sized loop, so I'm going to use the bottom part of my pliers here on my round nose pliers so I can make a decent sized loop. But I still think this might be a tiny bit long, even for the size of my pliers. So I'm just going to cut the end just a little bit, flush cutting it and making sure it's nice and flat. So use the flat portion of your flush cutters. And then I'm going to place my plier towards the back here so it's a nice decent sized loop, and I am going to place the wire flush, and I'm going to start to turn. I'm going to turn as far as I can. I'm going to take my pliers out, I'm going to flip them over, and I'm going to place them back in towards the front of my loop and continue to turn. And this is what you should get, just like this. Now I can take my flat nose pliers, I can open this loop a little bit by twisting it up and then push it towards the other half of the loop, shimmy it a little bit and close that. Make sure that you haven't bent your loop up or anything. You can adjust it with your flat nose pliers, and that's what you should have. Now at this point we will start to string on our beads for our focal. So I'm going to use a bead cap. Oops, not 14 of them, just one. I'm going to use a bead cap, and then I'm going to put the domed part towards the loop here so that the dished part is towards the wire, the length of wire. Then I'm going to pick up 3 of my cubes and slide it on. Then I'm going to pick up an 8/0 seed bead, and then I'm going to pick up an orange bead, my 6mm round, then a seed bead. These are 8/0s, and Tohos fit really nicely over 20 gauge, so Tohos are recommended, but you can find something else that fits. You can use whatever you'd like, actually. Then I'm going to pick up 2 more cubes. Then I'm going to pick up another 8/0, and then I'm going to slide on my pendant. Now this pendant has holes down here and up here. I'm going to use the very top hole here and drop it on. And then I'm going to pick up another 8/0 and repeat the pattern that I established on this side. So I'll pick up 2 of my cubes, and then I will pick up an 8/0, and then I will pick up an orange and an 8/0. Come here. And then 3 more cubes. And now I have established my little focal, except for I need a bead cap too. So you can see why you don't want to have a really steep curve, because you want to be able to have it look centered, and if the curve is really steep, then it's not going to. So we can always adjust the curve after we get done too. Now we have finished our design. We will push all the beads together and kind of hold them in your hand so that they stay down and there's no slack on this side. Then you're going to grab your flat nose pliers, and again the curve is down, and we're going to bend right above that bead cap, very close, so that the beads stay together tight. We're just going to bend our wire straight over. Then we are going to cut this down to about 1/2 inch. And then pick up your round nose pliers. Now that there's beads on it, it's a little harder to handle, but you can hold it in over your finger like this, and then you can center your plier basically where you did before on the other side, and make sure it's flush with the back of the pliers and begin to turn. Turn as far as you can, take your hand out, turn your plier over, and then put your plier back in towards the front of the loop so that it's flush with the pliers again, and continue to turn. Just like this. Now, I have a little bit bigger loop on this side than I do on that side. So the way I will remedy that is I will take my flush cutters and I'll just cut a tiny bit off the side of the loop that's open. And let me get you in a little closer here so you can see that. And then I'm going to grab my pliers and I'm just going to turn it in. And now my loops are closer to the same size. I think one might be a little smaller, but you just want them to be fairly close. Then you can kind of adjust if anything's off. If you have more of a curve on one side than the other, you can gently adjust it. And this side needs to curve a little bit more, but not much, because you want this to be fairly straight for this style of necklace. And then we are going to make some components to attach this way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this aside, and I'm going to grab one of my pieces of 2-inch wire here. So I've cut 10 pieces 2 inches long, and I am going to make some components to attach to that focal we just made. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick up one of our pieces, and we're going to go about, an inch down, not quite, or I mean a half an inch down, about like that. You want to make about the same size loops you did before. So this is going to be a little long. I'll just cut it. I've cut enough wire to accommodate that. So I'll cut this down a little bit, and I'm going to make the same kind of loop. I'm just going to grab my pliers, and I'm going to begin to turn. And then when I can't turn anymore, I pull them out, turn them over, go to the front of the loop, and continue to turn. Now sometimes you have to bring your pliers out a little bit and then continue turning to continue finishing your loop. So there's my loop. And now I'm just going to straighten this out a little bit, and I'm going to make a component. So I'm going to pick up a bead cap. And again, like I said, you don't really have to use the bead caps. It looks just as pretty without them. Then I'm going to pick up, I want a cube, and then I want an orange bead, and then I want a cube and a bead cap. Now I'm going to hold these in my hand, trying to keep everything down towards the bottom so that there's no slack between the loop and the first bead cap. And then I am going to grab my flat nose pliers, and just a tiny bit above that bead cap, I'm going to turn like this, just bend an angle over, 90-degree angle. Then I'm going to put this back over my finger, and I'm going to cut it down so that it is about a half an inch, maybe a little bit less. Right about there. That might be a little long yet. And then I will grab my round nose pliers and again turn a loop. Same way we've been doing it. And look at the sizes of my loops. This one is a little bit bigger, so again I can doctor it up. I'm not the best at making them exactly the same, so I just cut a little bit on the inside here, and then I'll put my plier back in and close it. So that's why I like to err on the big side instead of the small side, so I can adjust it. And then I'm going to grab 2 pairs of pliers and straighten out my little component because I brutalized him. And then I am going to place 2 pliers on either side and make sure that my loops are the same. So they're at the same angle. You don't have one vertical and one horizontal. And this is what it should look like. Now I can adjust him a little more because he's a little curved, and make him straight. And then you're going to make 9 more of these. So in total you'll have 10, unless you want a longer necklace. Now if you're doing the necklace the same way I am, using basically the same size of everything, you're going to end up with about a 17-inch necklace. I want this to ride up high on my throat, just right on my collarbone. So if you're a little bit bigger, then you may want to make a couple more units. If you're a little smaller, you can make one less unit. It just depends on the size of necklace you want for it to lay right on your collarbone, basically. For me, 17 inches works just about right. 16 fits, but it's too tight and it bugs me. So 17 works fine. And normally 16 is small, 18 is medium, and 20 is large. You can do that. It just depends on how you want your necklace to lay. And we want it to lay nice and neat across our throat, because it will straighten out everything and make the arrangement of the beads look nice on your throat. So if it's longer, it might dangle kind of weird. So go ahead and make your 10 units and we'll be back. Okay, so I have made 10 units, and now it's just a process of connecting them to the focal of the necklace and then connecting the clasp. Very simple, pretty fast moving project depending on how fast you make your units. So what we're going to do is we're just going to grab one of these 6mm round jump rings and find the opening. The opening is here. And I have put one plier on one side of that opening. I'm going to grab another plier, place it on the other half, and just crank it open like that. Then I'm going to pick up my focal, put it on the jump ring, and then put my first component on the jump ring. And then, again, I'm going to close the jump ring the same way I opened it, just by twisting it. And you can kind of shimmy it and make sure that it closes nice and tightly. So I hope I was in camera. I'll back off and do another one. But basically, just open and close the jump ring to put on your little components. Let me back off again. I'll do one more. I'm going to put 5 components on each side. So I will grab another jump ring, place my pliers on either half of the opening and just turn it open. Then I will pick up my component I just attached, put the jump ring on it, and then put another component on the jump ring. And then I will grab the jump ring and I will close it by twisting it back the opposite direction from which I opened it, just like that. Now, we're going to continue putting these on either side. So go ahead and put all 5 on one side and all 5 on the other. We'll come back and put the clasping on, and then we will have a necklace. Okay, so now you can see I have put all my components on to my focal. And now I just need to add my clasping. So I'm going to grab another 6mm jump ring and open it the same way we've been doing all along, and then I'm just going to grab 1/2 of my toggle. I like it on this side, so I'm going to put it on this side of the necklace, and then I'm going to open another one, put it on the other side of the toggle, put it on the last loop, and close it. And voila, or voila, however you say it, I don't know. But this is what you end up with. Let's see if I can get it in the frame here. I think that turns out really pretty. And I have so many of these beads in this bag, the orange and the gold. Probably go ahead and make a bracelet and a pair of earrings or something like that. But at this point, that's what this looks like. I think it turns out really pretty. The pendant matches perfectly the colors of the beads, and it hangs really nice, looks really nice. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. If you have, consider subscribing and giving me a little thumbs up, and hit that notification bell so we can continue making stuff. Alrighty, bye-bye.